One. There you go. We got recording in progress. Got it. And so, to be respectful of everyone's time, especially yours, Brian, we're going to get started. And as folks chime in, they just chime in. So, uh, I'm not one who likes to offer a whole lot of fluff because I think that you're the one with all the accomplishments, and so I prefer to hear from you. But my signature is I feel like I deliver the meat every week, and you have been one of the folks that I've targeted because of the respect. And we've never met. And you won't even remember, we met at a family reunion just a few weeks
I remember.
and I think we were at we were at the RN group there, and I think you were on your way out. So I really appreciate you honoring me because there's so many guys that are in my world that speak so highly of you. And it's funny, Kimber is one. And Emmerich piece, Emmerich is, I just have mad respect for him. And last week I had the Godfather on out of Atlanta, our buddy Merrill Johnson. And so, they all, man. And I think that when that happens, that just speaks volume about who you are and your character and your integrity and your professionalism and everything you do. And that's why I wanted you. And so I appreciate you honoring me with just a few minutes of your time. And you know what? The floor is yours. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ben, and I appreciate this opportunity and what you guys are doing here and the consistency of which you do it. One of the things that come to mind as you're sharing is, that leadership today is at a premium, and that goes for everybody in our world today. That the more quality leaders that we have that are willing to do the right thing and not the easy thing, that is at a premium today, right? It's more necessary than we've ever than ever. And the reason I say that is because if you led yourself out of bed, right, this morning, you're a leader. If you've got kids, right, that you lead every single day, you're a leader. You've got clients and you're in the real estate business. God bless you, right? You're a leader, right? Because every single day we're leading our clients to do the right thing, and it's oftentimes not the easy thing. And so, with that, that's what came to mind with what you're doing. And so, leadership for me has always been something that's been important. Whether I saw myself being in a leadership role or not, it's just exercising, doing the right thing, and not necessarily the easy thing. And over time, that creates a muscle that creates better quality relationships, better quality, opportunities, and also just better quality of life, in my opinion. So, going into the business, to be frank, I didn't come with anything prepared because I truly believe that you have the content that we want to talk about and we want to discuss. So I'm always open to having a conversation personally about myself. Been a MAPS one-on-one coach. I'm currently a Bolt coach. I'm an operating principal for a franchise here in Southern California out of Chino Hills, where I currently reside with my wife, who's also a rainmaker for our team. And my little one, I got a 9-month-old baby Amara, and she's probably the best thing, or definitely she is the best thing that's happened to me ever. And so I'm a new leader in that, right, as a parent. So I'm learning every single day. So if you've got some tips out there, some things to read, let me know, right? Because that's important today for me. So in regards to the business, and I'll just kind of share some things, and we're thinking about the inventory, where we are, and who would have thought by a show of hands that inventory would even inch down from last year, right? And then the year before that, like, who would have thought? And I see this every single day with, my wife being in the trenches, and, her and I have conversations about her clients and who she's working with. And, we've got a client, fortunate, she just got under contract into a property, and then a luxury buyer. And in our area, here, luxury is over that, depending on the county, 1.5 million. And so she's making an offer a few weeks ago on a property. Get this, maybe a quarter of an acre lot. This shows you what you can get in California. Quarter of an acre lot built in the 80s, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, about 2,700 square feet in the hills, right? So a little bit of a view. Asking is starting, let me say that, starting price today, right? Because that's in our market, it's not asking anymore. Its starting price is 1.7. And so having being beat out multiple times, she instructed that client says, hey, we've got to go in. You know, for those of you who work with your buyers today, you know, if we're not instructing them to be competitive, right? You're going in and you're going into a boxing match. And so put your gloves on and you're ready to compete, because today, you know, even in some cases, the gloves are off and you've got to be ready to compete. So she instructed them to do that. 1.7 starting price. They went in 2.1, no appraisal and no appraisal and no loan contingency. Tell me how in the world, and by the way, they went in 2.1. Tell me how in the world that they didn't get that property. The next buyer that got that home was 2.3 million. 1.7 starting, 2.3, right, closing. Where in the world does that happen other than California? And yet that's our market today, right? That is our market today. So what is it? What are you experiencing today as agents in your market? And what are you finding that you've got to do, not only mentally, yet also in preparation for your clients, whether it be buyers, and also, obviously, we're working the listing side. So what are your epiphanies? I'm curious to have that conversation with you about what it takes in order for you to compete today, because I do bold, and I've done bold a lot last year, and probably over, you know, in front of a few thousand agents over the last few years. And one of the things that I always do, especially in the digital forum that we've been, I love to put it in the chat box. In the chat box, if you talk to more buyers in the last week, put buyers. If you talk to more sellers in the last week, put sellers. 70% of people will put buyers in the chat box. Now, this is across the country. So obviously, we know today we've got to have a disproportionate amount of conversations with sellers in order for us to increase our listing inventory. Because today, having a buyer pool is not necessarily going to guarantee you an income. We're hearing that, we're knowing that. So what are your thoughts as we set the stage for that conversation? And I would love to hear some insight about what you're experiencing in your market and how are we being more strategic to compete today?
So if you guys want to take yourself off mute, you can briefly. I would just say that we're experiencing the same thing here, Brian, which is crazy. Our office sits in the 75252 zip code. And in the entire zip code, typically this time of year, we're sitting anywhere from 100 to 139 listings in the entire zip code. Currently, we're sitting at like 10. Which shows you how critical the shortage is. And I would say most of my peers here are experiencing the same thing. I think buyer expectations are critical now that we explain to a buyer, you just said it, this isn't the asking price, this is a starting price. And if the need is strong enough and the want is strong enough, then you know what, we've got to compete and just compete. And oftentimes that doesn't look like 1%, 3%, 5%. In some of our markets here, it's 15, it's 18, it's 20% over the asking. And that's just to compete. That's not to get, it's to compete, you know. And if you're not prepared to play this game right now, then we might need to look at alternatives for you, something else. So
absolutely.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Absolutely.
I'd love to know, you know, what I think, because we're all experiencing the low inventory, what are you doing to get more listings? What's successful right now? Who is listing their homes in California anyway?
Yeah, so I have three things that I'm coaching agents to do. You know, my wife is working on currently, and we've seen some results from that. And yet we're working to upshift that or increase our inventory. And so I'll give you three things that we can discuss, and I'll give you some pointers around that. And obviously, feel free to chime in on this. And so here's the three things that you can do to increase your seller listing inventory. I believe in the next 90 days, should you choose to actually implement it. Number one is you've got to bulletproof your routine, right? Your morning routine. What does that mean? Listings, in order for you to increase your seller listing inventory, it requires focus. It's a focus activity day in and day out. It's not just something that just pops up, because we know the tide today, the high demand today is with buyers, and meaning you can go to the grocery store, you could sit next to the person at the bar, wherever it is, a buyer will show up. Anyone want to buy a home today? Raise your hand, right? And then you'll see both hands go up across wherever you're at. It's going to happen. Now, who wants to sell a home today? Crickets. So that's why I say seller listings require focus. What is your, if we pulled up your calendar today, everybody showed their calendar, would it say seller listing lead generation time in your calendar? Or would it say show homes, buyer consultation, right? Home inspection, right? So that's going to be one thing that I would challenge you to do, is reorganize your calendar around the focus of taking seller listings and implementing that activity. That's number one. And then block that time with everything you've got. Be willing to say, no, not yet, not right now, within that time. If it's 9 to 11, safeguard that 9 to 11. Okay, that would be the most important thing, because without that, steps number 2 and 3, forget about it. Okay, so number one, bulletproof your time. Number 2, invest in predictive analytics. Predictive analytics. Do you guys have Remind in your market? REMINE.
Yes.
Remind would be my MLS for my seller listings. Who's most likely to sell next? Much like we would go out and search properties for buyers every single day and be in the MLS for probably an hour or 2 per day plus, is the same way we should be in Remind, scavenging and scouring, looking for who's most likely to sell next. We need to know the most likely, the coming soon before the coming soon listing inventory. So I would look at Remind. That's one. I would also, if I have a budget for it, and obviously lead with revenue, I would also invest in companies, whether it be like offers.com, SmartZip, or any other niche seller listing opportunities. Right? Offers is, again, we're big data. If data is the new oil, we need to be playing with the companies that have the most data. SmartZip and Offers recently merged. They were bought out by a conglomerate of data, right, collectors. And so now, whether you work with SmartZip or Offers, either one of those two companies are sharing data within the two. And so now you can have understanding of, again, who's most likely to sell next, looking at those key factors of, somebody having a baby, right? Maybe default, loan default, a bunch of, inquiries on their homes for multiple, they look at, I think it's over 150 different metrics or key factors that are putting people in the position that seem the most likely want to sell their property. So using predictive analytics in that manner. By the way, Remind in some markets is the basic version is free, right? And so looking at that, and then after that, obviously it's not a whole lot, $200. And I personally looked at that for us to buy our home. We bought a home recently, and out of maybe 5 people, I literally made 5 phone calls. I got 3 that were accurate, and 2 had 2 conversations on that, made an offer on 1, didn't go. And yet you see the likelihood of the conversations were, oh, I'm actually planning to make a move in the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, right? So Remind works. So if you use that, Farm Remind. Any questions on the predictive analytics or the calendar, the first 2 points? Don't sleep on that. That's a big deal. And then number 3 is utilize your buyer pool as leverage for those upcoming seller listings. So for the coming soons or the coming soons. So if you've got, a buyer that's looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,000 square foot in this part of town, Go out and utilize Remind. Don't wait on the MLS for something to pop up. Utilize Remind, write those golden letters, make those phone calls, hit those doors based off of who's most likely to sell next. That is what I would do. That's what some of our top agents are doing. Amazing. Another great just random add-on is if Nextdoor is big in your area, utilize Nextdoor. So if you have a platform within Nextdoor and you're able to see those neighbors, I've had an agent that I've coached utilize Remind and Nextdoor to capture that, see who's most likely to sell, and then go visit on Nextdoor and make a post in that community. And she had 3 listing appointment opportunities for making one I have a buyer post, and sold one and took 1 listing. All right, brought a buyer for one and then took 1 seller listing. So Nextdoor is underutilized. If you're willing to use that, use that. And also their advertising. Yeah, absolutely. Do they do sponsorship for Nextdoor? Absolutely. So the Nextdoor ads is relatively inexpensive, a lot less inexpensive for compared to going to Facebook or Google or whatnot. Nextdoor ads, look at that. That might be something that would be cost effective for you. Plus, you're talking to most likely homeowners, right? It's 65 to 70% of the people in those areas and on Nextdoor own. There you go, right? Talk about geofarming. Now, the biggest thing is, what would stop you from doing any one of these 3 things? Because anything that you intended to do, if done enough to a certain level of degree, will do it. The question is, what might stop you from implementing these 3 strategies, if anything? Why wouldn't you implement any of these activities? What doubts might you have? What concerns would you have? What limited mindset or beliefs are showing up or popping up right now as I'm talking and say, man, that may not work. What do you got to lose other than commission?
Right. Yeah. We get in our own way, Brian, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about this business. Anything done to a certain degree will make you an income. It's just whether or not, going back to number 1, what is our routine? Bulletproofing our routine. Am I going to do this day in and day out? Listings are focus. Gary Keller said it on stage not too long ago. Seller listings, increasing your inventory is literally focus. The thing that most agents have a challenge with is focus. Doing the same thing day in and day out consistently, that repetition of boredom, saying the same script over and over and over and over again. We want novelty. We want to switch it up. We want to, I feel like going outdoors today, right? I'm indoors all day. Let me go outside. All right.
Squirrel.
Well, yeah, squirrel. Absolutely. If that's the case, lead generate at the beach. Get a headset, get your dialer going, like some dialers, and get your list. Call at the beach. We have beaches here. All right. So for Dallas, call in the park. I don't know. Call somewhere. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's going on?
You got your agents doing Nextdoor. Now, the reason I asked about the ad is you said put out a post about any buyers or sellers or anything like that. Do they put an actual post out there, or are they running an ad? Because I've tried putting a post out there and one of the sponsors actually reported me to Nextdoor. So it's like, wow, okay. How are you navigating through that?
Well, so for that agent who did that, I don't believe that there was anyone who was making or doing ads for that community. So that's why she may have gotten away with that, because she lived in that area. So it should just so happen that the people who were looking for a property was in her neighborhood, and she was a part of that community already, in which that's how it worked out for her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a part of the same community. I still got reported. So I was like, oh, okay. Good tip. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes in the hunt for seller listings, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness. Let's do it.
Completely agree.
It's the hunt.
Yeah.
What else? What's going on? What comes to mind?
Well, Brian, I think that everything works and nothing doesn't. right? And so I think it goes back to focus. And I think here in Dallas, especially at this office, Dallas Preston Road, and I think my Lake City's office now, this is all about, I mean, hyper focused on obtaining a listing, because today that is the only way to ensure that you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And again, we all, in the past, we love serving buyers, but right now it's difficult. So,
Yeah.
and I think that has been the resounding thought today on your talk. It's all about focus and routine. And so I hope that everyone has gotten value from that. It's just right here. What you focus on expands. We've heard that forever, especially if you're with Keller Williams, right?
Yeah.
So,
And Richard, real quick on that, I'm reading the book again, which is how, because oftentimes we all have patterns in our lives, right? Patterns show up, right? Where we there's a sprint, we kill it for about a sprint, and then we're off for a few moments, and how do we get back on track? And I'm reading the Miracle Morning for real estate agents, and if you haven't read that book yet, the Miracle Morning for real estate agents, it's all about how not only you end your day, it's also how you start your morning, and yet how you start your morning is how you end your day. And so for those of you who haven't looked into that book, or who are looking for a routine that's going to help them bulletproof their mornings, if you will, Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents is a great read. It's great on Audible. It's a nice storytelling. It's an easy read. It's in a story format, so you can internalize it better. And I would recommend it for those of you who are looking for little hacks to increase their performance, increase their efficiency, longevity, and also just increase the joy, because this business, especially today, is a grueling, right? Grueling. And it is not easy, and it's not for the faint of heart. And so I commend you. I commend all of our realtors out there who are going out there working to champion home ownership. And at the same time, what are we putting in our tank, and what are we utilizing as fuel for ourselves outside of alcohol and other substances, right? And junk food, right? And yet what is it that we're putting in our tanks that will help fuel us for that better tomorrow, and who we're doing it for more specifically. So outside of business, it's also about how are we being fulfilled. And Gary Keller's talking a lot about that today. It's been a long 2 years, and a lot of us have gotten off track with why we do what we do. Some of us are working, and we may not have to work as hard or as much. And so just getting right back in touch with why we do what we do, who we do it for specifically, and finding new ways to fuel our days, weeks, months, years, etc.
and Brian, I really appreciate you. And I think that one thing here, which you just touched on indirectly, was how are we fueling ourselves, right? Maybe it goes back to your big why, but I would say that community is so important. It's one reason why I started this. I wanted to expand my community, especially with other like-minded professionals, that we're all thinking the same thing. We're all working toward the same, very similar goals. And the Pivot Shift group, our Lake Cities group, our Dallas Preston Road group, this Rise and Grind group, I've been so thrilled with what I see coming out of it, and just for us all to know that we're not alone, and again, no man succeeds alone, right? And life is better in community. So, Billy Fields, is your hand up, or you're just saying hi? So take yourself off for a second.
My hand is up, Benjamin. How are you?
Good. What do you got?
Everyone else on the call. I have a question for you, Ben. What percentage of your listings, or the agents from Keller Williams, or even agents that may not be a part of Keller Williams that's on this call, are looking to for convenience when they're buying a home? They may not be able to get here on time to get the signing done. I remember back in the day, we would do mail out closings, or now we're at the point, as we're transitioning into the future, remote online closings, where they could be wherever state that they are, but still be able to close on that home electronically.
I'd say for me personally, it's probably only about Maybe 20% of my clients are closing remotely. If that's answering your question, I'm not sure. I think between remote closings and notaries today, I think last year or the last 2 years during COVID, the number increased significantly because title companies weren't allowing folks in. And they were closing and the closing remotely. So we've seen that those numbers increase significantly. And I'm sure most folks on the call, I don't know if they say it's as high as 20%, but for me personally, I'd say last year's was probably about 20%.
California, all of our closings are remote, right? we don't go to the table for closings. It happens through our escrow and title process. So it was kind of a joke.
Oh, no, I got you. Because I don't think the opportunity exists in California yet, but I know it's coming. And what we're seeing more than I've ever seen before my almost 30 years in the business, the younger generation, especially, they're looking for convenience. They want to be able to sign those documents from wherever they are on the smartphone. So I'm just kind of curious to kind of see what's out there and what's going on in this market, as related to remote closings.
Thanks for chiming in, Billy. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ben.
Brian, again, to be respectful of your time, is there anything else you want to leave with us before we all go focus on nurturing a new seller relationship or taking a listing?
Take action. At the end of the day, just go do it. Be very clear about what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and why you do it, and know your goals, know your numbers. It'd be the last thing I'd say, and know how many appointments you've got to go on in order for you to hit your goals, and then invest in the time that it takes, and then invest in some predictive analytics, and then leverage your buyers, those I have a buyer letters and conversations and calls to get the attention of sellers.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Brian, I appreciate you again. Let's stay hungry. I love that, and really looking forward to staying connected and hopefully one day having an opportunity out there in the Chino Hills area, or whenever I travel out there. Trust me, I will stop in. That way, again, it's business, right? I'm going to log it. I'm going to Facebook it so I can write it off my taxes. So I'm going to do all that. So again, I appreciate you bringing the meat each and every week, guys. And next week, I'm not even going to tease it. I'm just telling you, next week, I'm so looking forward to our next presenter. Trust me, you will learn something. You'll get a nugget from it. I will not waste your time. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And let's go take it. Let's go crush it and kill it. And let's all stay hungry.
Stay hungry.
We'll see you now.
Thanks, Brian.